to test it between now and then. But all right, off subject. Let's talk about products.
Yeah. So obviously, number one, you got to have a product created. So last week we created Dan's awesome course, 97 to 997 for the really advanced feature. And where this pop up, I believe we had a funnel set up. We were actually using this one to hack the FBCC project, or the 1 Comma Club challenge offer. So if we have here, obviously, I'm going to edit this. The key here with this is you got to collect their email address some way that is not in a one-step order form. So this is a one-step order form. I don't love 3-step order forms, but I think 2 is kind of a nice little middle ground. So all this is going to do is collect their...
Let's just stop here. The nice thing about the two-step order form is you can collect name and email address, and when they click the button, it stores it into your database.
Yes.
Only the 2-step will do that. But as we mentioned last week, when you're working on the page and you're editing it and all that, put it in the 1-step mode while you're working on it so you can see the whole thing at one time. And then right before you go to production, put it into 2-step.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's some situations where a 1-step order form probably does make sense. Not so much in what I would say would be like this situation right here. So obviously, like I said, we got to have some way to collect their email address. And if you do or do not have the new editor workflow here, so obviously here, we talked about this with Rob 2 weeks ago. You can see your full funnel. You can then go to editor, and then you can go to workflow. So I don't have a workflow attached here. And so this is where it gets a little creative, right? So obviously a workflow, if we're going to do like an abandoned cart type sequence, we're going to want that to be on, let's call it order form opt-in. And Dan, if I'm doing this wrong and there's a better way to do this, then definitely chime in. So obviously the type here is going to be...
I'm not the expert on workflows, so I can tell you
that. Obviously the trigger is going to be opt-in. And I always like to come through here and tag the customer first. And I'm going to say lead FBCC, right? Because that's what we're doing that as.
And that was key what you just did there. Make sure once you type it in, you click on the blue, because that creates it and sets it in there. If you don't click on the blue, you're going to hit enter and it's not going to go in.
And then you're going to be like, what the heck? If I'm losing my mind in this process.
Yes. Click on it.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. Then what I always like to do is most likely you're going to want to, it's where it gets a little tricky based on how you set this up is what happens next. So if say you want to give that person some time to then buy your product. So especially on a 2-step order form, if this was a straight opt-in to the next page is an order form, that's a little bit different because you still want to say like, hey, here's your free thing coming your way. And then kind of start to push them with your email sequence to whatever the product is. So you definitely got to add in here a delay. And I think what's kind of cool about this is what I did with the stickers. I actually added a 6-hour delay. Pretty much anything, give them at least an hour, 45 minutes, an hour to complete the steps. We got our 6-hour delay in here. And then I'm going to come through and send email. And of course, I got to fill out all my information. This is the test account. Well, we'll just pretend like I've put an email in here, right? Email in, and then just hold on. Let me put my information in. This is the key. Fill out all your information before you go live. Even try to make it clean, new account, all this stuff like that. But really the strategy behind this is simply just that small little nudge to get people to say, hey, I'm here. You forgot about my thing. And I think you would still like it. You've probably all seen abandoned cart emails and what they look like when you've bought something or you put something in your cart on a Shopify site. They don't always have to have a coupon code with them. Like that's the thing that I think a lot of people probably don't think about with it is that it doesn't have to have some type of like free thing, or you definitely at that spot where it is just like early on, just send them the reminder. So I'm actually gonna pull this one up over here. Pull StreamYard over here though. So I'm gonna show you kind of like what this looks like. So this is actually my sticker funnel. And here is where we're at. So we have what I call the nothing soft whoops, right? So here's a trigger. The trigger is on opt-in. There's a split test, so there's 2 pages, obviously. Opt-in. I give them a 20-minute delay. I add the tag here for sticker, and here is the first email. And basically, it's going to say, hey, we noticed you left something important in your cart. There's not technically a cart, but still kind of is. Here's what you're missing out on, blah, blah, blah. Complete your order now. Now, as you can see, I delay 1 day. And here's the key. You're like, but how do I make sure my buyers don't continue to see this email? Well, that's the thing, is when we scroll down here, and the most important part of it is this conditional goal. And I actually like to push these conditional goals on tags. I think it is just, if you, especially when we're talking about a V curve, setting up a V curve with multiple products and they all have their own product name, set this on a tag. So basically, when we go through and now we have our buyer workflow, what is the first thing that happens? Or I send myself a Slack message. I can go, woohoo, sale. The second thing that happens is they get this tag applied, which is sticker buyer. And then from that, I send them their thank you email. And then, you know, have you joined, all this other stuff that I want to go down forth and do. And just like with my marketing emails with it. So.
Okay, now one thing I noticed you didn't have at the bottom of that, I see you have a pause there in the middle. Way down at the bottom,
there's no hold. I have a pause.
Okay, you do have a pause at the bottom. Okay, all right. I didn't think you'd seen a pause. And just let people know, you always want to have a pause at the bottom of any of these workflows, because if you don't, everybody's just going to go falling straight through the bottom. They'll get to that delay for 1 day. After the delay for 1 day, boom, they're gone. They're out of that workflow. Yep. And you always got to make sure you put that pause in there. And then when you want to add another step, you add the step below the pause, add another pause below that. Yep. And then you go to the pause above and you say, release everybody. And then they drop down into that next step. So it's really cool the way they put that in there and the way it works.
Yeah. So if we're going back to actually building this workflow out, remember, this is our order form opt-in, or what I call my whoops sequence. I'm basically just saying, hey, you just forgot something, but it's cool. It's cool. Still got your spot held for you. And so now I'm going to go send email.
So before you go any further, so is this somebody who opted in on just like putting your email opt-in, or is this somebody
this landed is on the first step of a 2-step order form?
A 2-step order form. Okay, first step. Okay, just to make sure we're clear there. So they are actually on an order form at that time. They put in their name and email, and then the doorbell rang, and they had to go outside and put out a fire, and so they completely forgot all about you.
Yeah, and this really just depends on if you are. I learned a little hack a while ago. If you're delivering somebody a digital type resource, the 6-hour hack is kind of what you can do, and just be like, hey, I just want to make sure you got it. Right. And you get a lot of responses and a lot of people that would, oh, I didn't see it, or it went to spam or whatever. Right. And there's little tactics on how you actually phrase that. So it's like, I'm worried about, did you get it? Hit reply. Let me know. But we're just going to come in here. We're going to put an email.
What did I get?
Well, if you're doing like an ebook or free training or something like that, it's not so much with stickers. So,
well, now I think about that. You know, you could, if somebody just filled out the first part of the 2-step order form, you could send them a digital asset. You could send them anything besides an email. I mean, you could send them an email regarding anything and send them back and go, hey, you know, thanks for visiting my page. We have this free gift for you just for giving us your name and email. And they're not going to know any different. They're going to go, yeah, I think, did I put in my name and email? I don't know. I barely remember being on that page 3 hours ago. But you're going to, all of a sudden, there's this little gift that shows up for them. And they're like, oh, wait, you just got my attention.
It's a
Probably
very good
better than
point.
just sending them an email saying, "Hey, dummy, you left your cart open." It's like, "Hey, thanks for visiting our site, and here's this nice little gift we're going to give you. And oh, by the way, if you're interested, you can come on back over here." And of course, the gift you're giving them is obviously just bait to get them back into your funnel
Yeah,
again.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So so as you're doing, like, we would obviously go through an abandoned cart sequence. We want to tell them about the benefits. We want to bust some false beliefs. We're going to go through here, add, not that. I got a little trigger happy with my clicker here. Come through here, and I want to add another delay, and I like to then space these out by a day. And which, while we're here, we actually should break this down a little bit. So relative is going to be relative to when they opted in. So it's going to be 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, or 1 month. And that's whatever you set here. If you want to set 55 days for whatever reason, from that point, that's what they're ultimately going to receive, that next email in that period of time. And if you have something where you have say a sales team, and they're only on the phones from 9 to 5 Eastern time, 3 days a week, then you want to add these this execution window where it's like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I have my sales team on, and they're on from 10:18 to 2:18 in the morning, right? Whatever it is, and you set the time. Then those emails will only trigger at those specific windows. What is relative to when the person opts in. So, for example, if I opt in at, let's actually just, so people don't go crazy, I opt in at 3:15 p.m. I'm not going to get this email until 1 day plus that execution window. So when I should get it, if I opt in on, say, Monday at 3 p.m., I should get that next email if I didn't have the execution window on Tuesday at 3 p.m. But with that execution window on, I'm going to get that email Wednesday at 10 a.m.
Right.
because I'm only sending these based on when I have a sales team.
Yeah. So if you were to opt in right now, the way this is set, you wouldn't get that email until Monday morning after 10:18 a.m. And that's 10:18 a.m.
Eastern time.
Eastern time. Okay. So,
Yep.
and I guess you'd want to set the time zone there to the time zone where your call
Sales
center
team.
is,
Yep.
so that it syncs up so that, the people are getting the emails when the call center is open.
Correct.
Okay.
But for stickers, that doesn't matter. I just want to set it as 1 day. And then I'm just going to continue to go down this email. What's my next email in that sequence? So on and so forth. And if I get back to the tab I had open, as you can see here, don't miss out. So that's the first one they get. There's a delay. Your softball sticker is, we go preview. It's, hey, contact name. It's still in your cart, blah, 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 blah. Another day, last chance to claim it. This is just pretty much standard abandoned cart content or copy in the email. And now at this point, I can throw in the 20% off if I wanted to. A lot of times, this might just get people to chase your coupon code, and but I have had some people actually buy with this. So it's that is if you have the margin in it, that's kind of like your Hail Mary. Like, can I actually just get this person to buy because I've already paid to acquire them through my time or through actually like Facebook ads, so on and so forth. And then you could add 3 days in there, 1 more day, different things like that. And then at this point, if they've not bought, then they're going to just stay right here. And I could trigger another workflow or different things like that. The magic comes into is this goal step, which means when they have this tag pops up, it automatically pulls them from wherever they're at in this workflow down to here, meaning they're going to jump through and skip all of these emails in this sequence just down to that spot, because I don't want to keep saying, hey, you forgot your emails or you forgot your sticker, and they're like, but I bought my sticker. Like, what's going on here? So that's how you can use, and the magic really comes with this being a goal step.
Okay, so let me get this right. So somebody comes and they come to your two-step order form, they put in their name and address, and then they bounce. They don't put in
Yep.
any other information. So you get a name and an email, basically, is what you got.
Correct.
So they're going to get tagged with no sticker, let's say.
Yep.
And then you start sending them out an email. Eventually they respond to one of those purchases, and then they go over and they buy the sticker, and
Yep.
you give them the tag of bought sticker.
Yep. And that's the beauty of it. Like, go ahead, keep going. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say that then triggers that goal step when they get that new tag. Now, my question would be, of course, why did you not just give them the tag of bought sticker and remove the tag of no sticker?
I don't know, because I didn't.
But
still, even removing the tag would not boot them from this workflow when they're already in it.
Okay, so that would not take them out of the workflow.
Yeah, so just keep going down.
Okay, I guess that would make sense.
That's at least my understanding of it, because they're already stuck in that sequence, and it's nothing's going to trigger the software, the logic at ClickFunnels to actually go, hey, they don't have a tag anymore. Let's remove them.
Yeah, so each step does not say only send this to them if they have this particular tag. And I don't think there's ability to do that in there, but this makes sense then, is you can add the new tag and or remove the old tag, but then kick them down to this goal step, which the goal step could be the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or you could just have it at the very bottom and then have a pause below it, and everybody who then bought ends up there. And then at that point, you can say, okay, at some point in the future, if I want to do something with this list, but you can also at that point add them to a different workflow.
Yeah.
And have them start going through the I bought a sticker workflow, because then you want to send them the book of stickers and the wall to put the stickers on, and the car and everything else for the stickers. Because if you have stickers, you need a car to put them on.
So for my mind, it's simpler to have different workflows. That's why I have my whoops and I have purchase. But what I could do here is I could come through here, add the step to trigger another workflow. But I already know that I'm using the trigger of purchase. So I know that those people are buyers and not like that they just had this goal. Because at some point they have to have this goal. This tag has to be applied to trigger this goal. And so triggering another workflow would be ultimately creating a third one. But say above it, and I now created a newsletter workflow, or I came out with a new sticker design, or whatever it is, I could actually put in this trigger another workflow here, release all of these people, and then they would then go through that other workflow, which might have other abandoned cart emails for a different offer, or other emails for a different offer.
Now, let's say you got 3 different products on an order form. So you could set it up so that on a purchase, you can then say, if they bought product A, they're going to get tag A, product B, product C, 3 different tags. And then you could have work out in here that depending on which tag they have, you can send them to a different workflow as well. So you can make this all conditional in there, that you can send the people who bought the different products to different workflows.
Yeah, and exactly. And so like if we go back here to the editor, I'm just going to do that so I can open up this tab.
And I guess you wouldn't even have to add tags. I guess you could just do that as purchase product A as one workflow, purchase product B as a separate workflow, just create 3 different workflows without even doing the additional stuff I just said. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for me, the reason that I take, I just want to be as a guest. That's why we have, I guess, let's do this. Missing whole statistics here, but that's okay. I like to just have the one purchase workflow, even if you don't have the other emails that trigger below it, that one purchase workflow just adds that tag. So regardless what they buy, it gets that buyer tag and it boots them from that abandoned cart email sequence.
Right.
So
But yeah, the
that's
workflows in here are pretty cool and pretty powerful. And I don't think they're like overly powerful either, because I know there's some softwares where it's, you need a degree from MIT to be able to figure out how to work their workflows.
yeah. If you have
I
active
think that,
camping, yeah.
yeah, I think this is simple enough, and it handles everything you want it to do.
Yep.
Is really what you're looking for.
So as you can see here, just the nature of how the V curve is set up, which is how you can kind of encourage people to buy 3, 5, and 10 of something, is that these are all different products. And that's just because the different prices is kind of the way it has to be set up. But now this means that I have 6 different products that somebody could buy, or 6 variants. And let alone if I start to get into t-shirts and sizes and different things like that, that's where it gets really tricky. If we go back here to our abandoned cart, because I can set this conditional goal down here. I prefer to set it on tag because I know tag will apply. I know tag applies very quickly. You can set this to is enrolled in course, opted in, and then obviously we get down here into products and owns a variant of a product, purchased a product. And when I go say to purchased a product, I have all of my products that they could buy. Like this. And so if I just wanted somebody to said they bought 10 stickers, the 10 pack of stickers, it takes them, and that's the goal that they meet. I think that it's better because then I'd have to come through here and go, I want to add. Actually, I want to go or. Click this. Product purchased is the 1 pack. I have to go through and add every single one of those products into this section, right? Or and or and or. Now, the key here is if you add and, meaning they have to have a purchase this product and say owns a product, meaning they've already previously bought my book. And if you're wondering like, hey, I get all these people and they're not meeting that goal. Well, that's because you put it an and, meaning they have to have both conditions of that met in order to be escalated to that conditional step.
Yeah, I made that mistake the other day too. I was just like, oh, I was just, and like immediately I was like, no. No one's ever going to meet these 2 conditions that I was setting up. It has to be one or the other because they were like exclusive of each other. And I was, so yeah, just keep an eye on that. You're probably more often, well, there is a case, and I don't know if it's still necessary. I remember a couple of years ago when 2.0 first came out, there was an issue where you had to kind of set up a delay. So you always had to say, they check to see if they owned a product and then check something else. So it was an and, but the only reason you put that in there was just to slow it down just a tick so that the back office, the customer database could catch up. But I don't think that's probably even necessary anymore. Like I said, that was old school.
Yeah, I think it is ultimately pretty fast now that you don't need to have a step like that in there. But it's just something to keep in mind, right? Like I think the most important thing when it comes to an abandoned cart sequence is that number one, I boot a buyer out of that as fast as possible. So for me, I would much rather have that be, let's kick them out so they don't keep getting the email saying, hey, buy the thing, going, what is up with this crazy person? And then I can do in other workflows. I can trigger those different conditional goals and different, if they bought this one but didn't buy this one and do stuff like that. But I think the most important thing is just simply to boot them from workflows that, especially abandoned carts, so they don't keep getting those emails.
Well, yeah, and we've all had that where we bought something or signed up for something and we still get 25 emails after the fact about it. And that's, when I start getting that, then it's like, okay, where's that unsubscribe button?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you unsubscribe and you're off the list and you just lost, you lost somebody really who already opted in to, let's say if it's a webinar. I already opted in to go to your webinar, but then I keep getting this, hey, don't forget to sign up for the webinar. Well, I already signed up. So then I get mad and I unsubscribe. Well, you just lost me off your list now, even though I'm going to show up at your webinar.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So yeah, just it takes a couple extra seconds to do something like that, and it could save hundreds of people on your list.
Yeah. So looking at time, that obviously, as you can see, we dug into a lot of detail in that. And when we talk about an application funnel, there gets to be even more different logic. So we're going to save that for next week, open loop, to figure out how you can use conditional goals to keep people from getting their, did you book your call? Did you book the call? Did you book the call? And going, I just had the call with you. What do you mean? So next we're going to talk about how you can use those conditional goals in automations to increase your application funnels.
Okay. So does that mean I'm up?
That means you're up.
Okay. All right. I already went through all the trouble of like trying to share the screen and all that kind of stuff. So is my screen
You're
sharing?
good.
There it
You're
is.
sharing
So
now.
you are seeing my screen. All right. And everybody should be seeing both you and I and my screen. Is that what I think is happening?
They should be.
All right. So last week, actually, let me open this up as a live page.
And you got here a comment on YouTube, Dan, that this friend of yours has been learning from you for years in the Bahamas.
There you go. There you go. Let's see. Bahamas even. Wow. Probably pretty nice down there most all the time, except when the hurricanes come through and blow you away. But so last week we came into our page here, and there's nothing on this page right now, but we were in here and we were playing around last week with Lighthouse, and we were looking at page speed and all that kind of stuff. Well, one of the things I decided to do is come back and start taking a look at what happens, because we're all in the editor all the time and we're just dropping boxes in here and all that. Well, how does that affect, how does that change the code that's on the page? So here we have, up here at the top, we have all of the HTML code on the page. Hypertext markup language is what they use to display any web page onto a browser. It was specifically created for that purpose, to display pages onto browsers. So everybody uses it. Doesn't matter what software the program was created in. With ClickFunnels, it's created with React, and which is a JavaScript derivative. It's Bullet Train, Ruby on Rails derivative, and probably a couple other things I don't even know about, plus, add-ins from here and there and all over. I mean, all these softwares these days, these applications are using bits and bobs from other companies as well, because why reinvent the wheel if you don't have to? You can go out, you can get the open source software, or you contract with them, you do whatever, you put it in there. In this case here, you'll see things in here like Google Fonts. You'll see that it's connected to Cloudflare. Font Awesome is in here. So all those things, third-party companies, all built right into ClickFunnels as well. But as you keep dropping stuff into your page, you're going to get more and more and more HTML over here, because it's building your page for you. So what I'm going to show you, what happens when you put stuff onto a page, how it changes the code over here. So then when you come in and you're looking at code like this, whether it's in ClickFunnels 1.0, 2.0, or even WordPress or something, you can get an idea of, okay, now I understand, because when I take and I drop a section in here, which is nothing more than a box, and then I put a row inside of it, which is another box, and that has columns, which are more boxes, how does that look inside of the code itself? So where I want to start here is actually with a style guide. Now, I know a lot of people aren't using style guides. I'll tell you, I didn't until about 6 months ago, and now I will not do anything without building a style guide first. It is such an incredible time saver, and it makes things so much easier if you set it up properly. So let's take a look at that, and then I will show you how the style guide looks inside of the HTML itself. So we're going to come over here, and we're going to come to style guide. I have my SA Live style right here. And is this where I'm supposed to be? Yeah, I guess it is. So come back in here, style guide. And so you can come in here, you can set a bunch of stuff. We're not going to look at the corners, buttons, borders, shadows, but we are going to look at the fonts and the colors real quick. So in the fonts here, the very first thing I will advise everybody to do is take this from 16. It'll always start off here as a base font size of 16. Change that to 10. So what I'm going to leave it as 16 for right now. Let's come down here. So our headline is set as Poppins. Okay, now we can change this to anything we want, including any custom fonts we have in here. So let's just say we're going to change this to a custom font we created and put in here a Trajan Pro Bold. We'll talk about how you do that some other time maybe. Okay, but now, so we change that there. You can change your standard font weight for it, the spacing, the line height, all that. But you see right here, it's tiny, tiny on my screen, but this says right here, 3 REM, R-E-M. REM stands for root M. And M is it comes from old block setting days. So when back in the days where they used to have wooden blocks, they set them in there and they smush the paper down on top, think Gutenberg's press kind of thing. The largest letter in any set was always the M. It was always the widest letter. So that's where this comes from. So every other letter was based upon the difference in the size to the letter M. So a T might be 0.8 M, whereas an S might be 0.75 M. Something like that. So that's where this comes from. So now the root M means base all of your sizes off of the root font size that you set. Well, where is that root font size? That's right here. So this gets set at the level of the HTML on your page. And because of that, everything else is based on it. So now if you're really good at math, what you want to do is you want to set this here to like 17. Okay, because you're so good at math, you can then come in here and you can say, okay, well, if I set this here at 3.529, multiply that by 17 in your head, and you're going to come up with 60 pixels. Now, I've had a lot of math in my life, and I can't do that in my head. I guarantee you. So the simpler way to do this, if you're not quite the math whiz that apparently Madison is, you're going to set this as 10.
It's not. Yeah.
And then we're going to come in here and we're going to see, okay, so now our 3.529 REM is actually equal to 35 pixels. So let's just move this. Let's change this here. And we're going to make this here 30 pixels. And what's it going to become? It's going to become 3 REM. Now you're going to say, why is that important to me? Well, because for some reason inside of ClickFunnels, and I will put in some stuff here really quick, inside of ClickFunnels, it natively defaults the font sizes here to REMs, not to pixels, but to REMs. Now, because I have this set at 10, even though I don't because I didn't save it, had I saved this, we would know that this 2 REM was 20 pixels. So I would never have to change. I don't have to come over here every single time and change this thing to pixels. Well, now the root M was set to 16. 16 times 2 is 32. 16 isn't a hard number to multiply by, but why not make it easy on yourself? So let me just delete that out of there and we'll come back into our style guide. And so now for real this time, I will save it. We'll click on update. Now we know all we have to do is whatever number is showing for REMs, multiply times 10, put a 0 behind it. That's the number of pixels. You don't have to spend all day long clicking on that thing and opening it up. Do you have a question, Madison?
Yeah. So if you're doing the new Funnel Builder Coaching Certification Program and you're in Bronze Badge 2 or 3, I believe is what it is, where you're trying to replicate pages, there's a great example of how you can go from pixels to REMs if you're struggling with how in the heck do I even get the font right?
Yeah, and when we get into the editor here very quickly, you're going to see in the editor, it's always in, well, not always. Most of the time it's in the pixels, especially where it's computed, where I normally look for stuff like that. It's in pixels. So again, Why does ClickFunnels do it that way and default to the REMs? I don't know. I wish they would change that. It would make it a lot easier on people. And if nothing else, then you don't have to click on the things. So either way, when you're building out your style guide, you come in here, you put in all your font sizes, you put in your font families, and then let's jump down here to colors. You're going to come in here and you're going to set up a bunch of colors. So I set these up here so they're very
Beautiful color
easy.
palette.
Well, it is. And but they're very easy to see. And that was the reason why I did this as a test color palette. But you come in here and you first off, you set up your colors up here at the top. You put this in, hexadecimal number, whatever. It's color picker like anywhere else. Then you can come into each one of these here and you say, okay, what's the base background color? So for this lightest one up here at the top, I put in white, all black for the text, black for the links, and then my icon color of this gold color. And then as we go down, we got the colored one down here and the whole thing. And you can see over here on the right-hand side, it also gives you a depiction of what those are. And each one of them has a name. Okay, so I'm showing you the colors. I'm showing you the names. I showed you the fonts because once we get in here now, we're going to take a look at it and go, oh, okay, this stuff is all over the place. So let's save this page.
Those colors paint over, right? Like you talked about last week, when you have a background color on the page, those section colors replace or go over top of that background color, correct?
Yeah, because those are sections. So you have the body, which right here is the body of the page. And you see as I hover over it, the whole thing on the right-hand side turns blue. So if we were to put in a background color, which we will do in a minute, that whole thing will then become that background color. And then when you put in a section, that section is basically a box sitting in front of the background. And so if that box has a background color of its own, that's what you're going to see. If it has a transparent background color, obviously we'll see through it to the color behind it. But see, there's two main parts of a page. You got your body and you got your head. We'll take a look at each of those for a second, but they are both sitting inside of this box here known as HTML. So that is the entirety of your web page is HTML. And so if we just click on this here and then we pull this up from the bottom, what are we going to start seeing in here? It says style guide, font family, headline, Poppins, font weight headline 700. And then we got subheadline and content. And so everything we just built inside of that style guide is going to show up in here. We got the buttons and we got, what else we got here? I guess it's just mostly buttons up there. And now what do we have here? That looks exactly like the color palette I just built. So here are all the colors with a variable name. In this case here, it's color 6ZEEJEGG, blah, blah, blah. So each one of these then becomes a variable that then, as we build out this stuff, we choose one of those colors, which is a variable, and the code puts it in for us. So it's all set up ahead of time. Here is our font size of 16 pixels. Because I did not reload the page, we had here 16 pixels. If we were to reload really quickly here, it should, if we come in here and click on this, it should now change to 10 pixels. Yep, there we go. So now it is 10 pixels, and this is our root font size, or our root rem right there. Nothing else really exciting here, but over here on the right-hand side, then we also have what is known as the computed down here at the bottom. So for this HTML document that we have here, we now know that our font size is 10 pixels, and you can always open up this, and sometimes it'll give you different information in here about, in some cases, let's say this font size, we're deep inside of a document, and this font size was set at one level, and then the next level is set at a different font size, and then the next level is set as a different font size. It will show you each one of those levels and what font size was set at each one of those levels. And then also, if we click on this little blue arrow, it will show us where this is over here in the CSS. So this is the CSS. This is the HTML at the top. This is the computed down here. And this is known as the CSS box model right here. And if I were to widen this out a little bit, let's do that. Okay. Can I make my screen wider? Will it continue to show on the page? You're going to see here, it said margin, border, padding, And then this is the size of, in this case here, the entire HTML document. So now let's come in here, and how come I lost my body here? That's strange. Let me reload the page. There we go. Body's back. Okay, that's good. So now inside of the head, let's bring this way down. You got all kinds of stuff. We're not going to talk about any of this today. A lot of metadata, a lot of things that it's calling out here. Like I said before, Font Awesome, Google, the Google API there for Google Fonts. We got all kinds of other stuff. But in here, we also have our style guide again. So if we were to open this up, we would see, again, everything that we set inside of our style guide is in here. And we got to go way, 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 way down here. And then here's the page style. This is actually the styling that you set for elements on the page. So we're not going to look at that. Custom CSS, you would put that in here. Here's the custom fonts. We had 2 custom fonts in here that we saw earlier on our list of custom fonts. And then that is it in there. But if we keep going down now, we get down to our body. And this is where everything you put on the page, if you drag in a section, a row, or whatever, that starts getting built out down here, this part of it. And inside of here, you find an element known as the content wrapper. There's a lot of other stuff in here too, but this is the part we care about. Content wrapper.
Container. Container wrapper.
There you go. Container wrapper.
Content wrapper below it.
Yeah, see, and then L page content. So yeah, it's all very confusing, the naming that they have on here, but that's okay. And then inside of here, we finally get to the point where we are looking at what we can affect on the page, either inside of the modal. Modal is the pop-up, which we're not going to talk about today. And then here is the content node. And you see, as I put my mouse over there, the whole screen just turned purple, because that is the area that basically we have to work with, where we put our stuff. So now we're going to come over here, and first thing we're going to do is we're going to come into the body, and I'm going to turn this on. I had already set a background color as red, and we are going to save that. We're going to come over, and we're going to see now that what it did, and I have to open up everything again. Wait, that didn't turn red, so let's reload the page again. And it's still, I hit save, didn't I? Yep.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let me hit the eyeball. That'll get us there faster, probably. Okay.
There we go.
We will inspect this. Hope nobody went blind from seeing that. So here we go. Now, here we have our content node. And you see here, as I hover over it, the red turns to purple. So that gave us a background color of red on the entirety of the body. But in here, body is known as content node. Why? I don't know. Node is kind of a computer term, so that's why. But if we come down here, we now see our color. And you can click on the little square. You can see it in RGBA. You can click on here. You can see it in hexadecimal. Hexadecimal is what we normally use inside of ClickFunnels. In fact, it's the only thing you can use inside of 2.0. And if for some reason you want to copy this color, you just click right here and you can copy the color. You, of course, could change it, play around with it. Nothing we do in here affects the actual page itself. It affects what you're seeing on the page, but it doesn't change the page. Because if that were true, I could go into all Madison's pages and I could really mess everything up for her. So obviously, you're only affecting it on your computer until you reload the page, and then it all goes away again. So let's come up here now. And what do we want to do? Let's put in a section. So we're just going to click here, and we're going to put in a blank section. And inside of this blank section, let's give it a gray background. So we picked here our light background. We're going to leave this on a width of XL. And let's just put in some padding here so it gives it a little bit of size. And now we are going to save this. And we're going to click the eyeball again, because that seems to get us in there faster. And we're going to right click on that gray area and inspect. And it brought me right here to that section that we just put in. So here's our content node for the entirety of the page. Here's our, now it says section container. So we know we put that in, has a class of container, and it has a class of full container. Why do we have a class of full container? Because as I said over here, should have left that open, I made it XL. If I put in any of these other ones, as you'll see here in a minute, it gives us a different class. So it'll give us a class based upon the size that we had, because then the class is just a bunch of CSS. Think of it that way. So if I put in a class of full container, that comes along with a package of CSS, which then the computer reads and says, okay, we need to make it this size, and whatever, it all comes along with that. In fact, we can come down here and we can actually see what comes along with it, because here is our class. No, that's a class of container. So here's a class of container. Here's a class of full container. Now you're saying to yourself, why do these have lines through them? They have lines through them because there was other CSS that overwrote this CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. And so there can be multiple different style sheets. Plus there's internal CSS, there's external CSS, and there's inline CSS. And so depending on where it is, when it came in, timing is important on this. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that's important. Some CSS will override other CSS. So in this case here, we got padding left of 15 pixels, padding right of 15 pixels. It's exactly the same as down here, but this, because it's a section container, that overrode the fact that we had a class of container, and also full container here was overwritten again by the section container. So it gets a little bit complicated, but that's what it means. Something else is overriding it if there's a line through it like that. And then we can come over here to the computed, and you will find the same stuff over here. Let's go down. Where's the padding? Here's our padding left and right there. Let's click on this. And here we're going to see, okay, here are all the different places that this padding came in. So it came in two different places, I guess, that the padding came in. But then, so we can, if we get the little blue arrow to show back up. Okay, so we got this blue arrow. Okay, where does this blue arrow go to? Click on that. Okay, it brings us over here. And where's the other blue arrow take us to? Oh, come on. Right there. There you go. So you can always go back and forth and see where it is. And then again, up here on our box model, we have 200 pixels of padding at the top, which you saw me put in, and at the bottom, and there was 15 left and right, which again is exactly what it's showing right there. So everything that we just put in translates 100% over here, including right here. We got data paint colors equals light. And what did we set up here? We set up a light background right there. So now if we were to come in and put in another section, so let's put in, and I won't change that yet, but let's change the width on this to, let's make it extra small. And we're just going to leave that alone as is. We will come and let's just eyeball it again, because I find if you eyeball it, then you just come in here and you right click on it. Usually it's easier to find what you're looking for anyway. So now we have two sections here, one on top of the other. Background paint color of lightest. So let's go back in here. And everybody thinks you got to come up here and click on the gear to get into a section like this. No, you just click there and you can get in there. So now we have lightest background right there, but let's change this to our colored background, and we have extra small, 20, 20, and 15. So let me see if we can get this to reload real quick. There we go, turn blue. Now we have data paint colors equals colored. We have small container, which I don't know why it says small container, because we had extra small. So let's see what happens if we take it to small. When I was playing around with this a little bit yesterday, I noticed that, but I didn't come in here to not see. Okay, that's called now mid container. So yeah, the naming isn't necessarily always perfect, but you get the idea. It gives it something different. But now we have a class here of mid container. So if we were to come down through here again, we would find our class down here, mid container, says max width of 720 pixels. Okay. Why is it 720 pixels? I don't know. ClickFunnels decided it needed to be 720 pixels. Now, admittedly, 720 is a number that is used, I do believe, by Bootstrap. No, I'm thinking 768, not 720. So never mind. But either way, so now we have our two sections here. So now let's go back here, and we got about 5 minutes left. Let's come in here. Let's put in a row. So let's put in a single column row really quick. And where is that row? So let's just take our row and let's make our row white so it will stand out. And let's save our row. And we're going to open this up. We may have to run a little bit long. Are you okay with that, Madison?
Yeah.
Okay, because a couple other things I wanted to show. So let's just come in here and we're going to inspect this row. So now here we're inside of our section. And a lot of times you're going to have multiple layers. Most every element in ClickFunnels has like 2 layers around it. So here we have a row, but when we put in the row, it also put in this container inner. So you have the section you have, which is also known as a container. We have the container inner, and then we have the row inside of it. Now, inside of this row, we have a the inner content is a class for this, but here it's a column, and we have a single column row right now, and we have our col inner, but I got nothing inside of it. So you see here, so as soon as we put in the row, it put in the container inner, the row, the column, and the inner column. Put all of that inside of there in just by clicking on and adding one singular element. Now, in this case here, we have a single column row. And you're going to notice right here, col MD12. There's a reason for that. ClickFunnels uses something known as Bootstrap. Bootstrap was created by Twitter years ago to make pages mobile responsive. And what they did is they took any section, in this case, a row on the page, and divided it up into 12 equal columns. So let's go back into our editor here, and let's just do this. Let's add, and like I said, you can just click right in here. Let's add in some space here. And what we're going to do, we're going to add in a column. And this is pretty cool inside of ClickFunnels. What they have now is you can just click here and go, oh, give me 2 columns. Pretty fancy stuff. I'll tell you, it's a lifesaver. So otherwise, you'd have to create a new row and bring in a 2-column row and all that kind of stuff. So let's save this and come back over here and reload it. And what we're going to see when we're done is we're going to have now 2 columns, one 6 and another of 6, because we took that 12 Bootstrap columns and we divided it in half. So now what's going to happen here is, let's say we pull this over. I just pulled that over 2. So it should now be 4 and 8 when we save this thing and we reload the page. So now we have 4 Bootstrap columns on one side and 8 Bootstrap columns on the other. Well, what happens when we add another column in here? Well, we're going to have 4 of each. And you can see that pretty plainly here. I don't have to keep going back to the other page, because 3 divides into 12 equally. 4 divides into 12 equally. So we got 3 Bootstrap columns here for each one. And 6 divides into it equally, even though sometimes
you're at 5.
Yeah, I got 6 there.
Oh no, you got 6. Okay.
I got 6. Just sometimes it doesn't like to throw in that blue line. If I save it and reload the page, it'll be there. So 6 divides into 12 equally. 2. But I did that really quick on purpose, because what happens now if we take, okay, see, now it popped in. What happens if we take one out? 5 does not divide equally into 12. So it has to give us uneven column widths. So now what you could do, let's say, well, we're going to move this one over 1, and we've got to kind of move them all over. So let's say maybe you want 3 on the outside. You want 2 in the middle like this. You can kind of move it around however you want. Generally speaking, I would say don't use a 5-column row. But if you do, there's a little line of CSS we can drop in there that says make each of these columns 20% of the width of the row.
So this would be a perfect situation if you wanted 5 columns to use a flex container.
Yeah, you could also use a flex container, which we will not even get into today. Maybe some other time we'll look at a flex container, considering we're already past time. But now you see here, I got 3 columns, 2 columns, 2 columns, 2 columns, and 3 columns. And when I say columns, I mean Bootstrap columns, not to be confused with the columns inside of a row. So again, a lot of words, gets really complicated sometimes. But now we have all of them here. Like I said, if you wanted to, you could come in here, put in a little bit of CSS that says here, instead of a width of 25%, we can change this to 20%, and then it will change the width of each of these columns. It will not change the col MD3. There probably is there would not be a 20%. Now, there would not be a 20% class. So there is not a class where we can say Col MD whatever and have it be equal to 20% and change it that way. You have to actually change it like this. The class will not change. So then we have our 5 equal columns, and you have to change it for all of the columns in inside of this row. You were going to say something?
No.
Okay. Let me just see.
I'm just
here.
learning a lot, though.
Oh, well, good.
But the wires are getting connected in my brain. I'm like,
Yeah, I discovered this years ago. I had a bunch of training on this, and I still do. It was for 1.0, but 1.0 and 2.0, when you look at the HTML, it's not very different. I mean, there are slight differences. The biggest difference between 1.0 and 2.0 is in 1.0, when you came into the sidebar and you were doing stuff over here, it would create inline CSS. So you would come in and you would look at the code, and somewhere in here it would say style equals, and then it'd be, like background color of red and, all different stuff right inside the element. Here, they tend to not do that. They will add classes instead. So another thing, difference between 1.0 and 2.0 is in 1.0, every single element had an ID automatically attached to it. Here in 2.0, you only get an ID if you add the ID yourself when you're doing any kind of custom code. See, here you're going to see something that looks like an ID, but really isn't an ID. It says ID, but it's actually really a class. Now, built into ClickFunnels, there is a way that you can then turn that class into an ID, basically just give it the same name. You could do that. But I just refer to this as a unique class identifier simply because I've never heard any other term to call it, and I thought that sounded like something pretty good. But that is just about it. Let's just do one more thing here. Let's just add in a headline element now, just to show what that looks like once we put something actually onto this page. So again, that's going to come in right. Okay, so we're right here inside of this element, inside of this column. So we got our col inner. Like I said, we already showed how that got put in before. Then we have our headline. Like I said, almost everything has multiple layers to it, especially when you get into a button. So here we have the entirety of the headline is 1, 2, 3, 4 different layers inside of the headline. We have a unique class identifier here. Here we have an H1 tag indicating it is a headline element. And then we have 2 nested spans inside of here. And on the lower one, it has another unique identifier right there. So there's a lot of different ways you can identify this. If you want to do any kind of custom code or anything, you can reach in here and very easily grab a hold of a particular item. If no other reason is you can just use this unique identifier right there, turn that into an ID, or add an actual ID to this element. And that, well, actually, you'd have to add the ID up here. I think it's one of these 2 levels here. I forget where it gets stuck in, but maybe we'll talk about that next week. Talk about how to do some beginning stuff as far as doing custom code inside of ClickFunnels.
And I think probably a really good topic to talk about in one of those weeks is how can you use AI services like ChatGPT and Claude to help you do some of your CSS, and how do you grab that information to feed into them so they can actually help you get the right class.
And also how
not
quite often what it will give you is just HTML, and it doesn't do you any good. I mean, like Madison said, there's a trick to that. But, I think that's one of those things we keep as a paid course, Madison, not, we're giving that. We can't give everything away here. Come on.
Very true.
Either way, we're 5 minutes past the top of the hour. So I think we should wrap this up here. How do I stop sharing my screen? We're going to do that right there. And so that's it. So next week, we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. Just keep moving forward. And if you got any ideas, suggestions on what you would like to hear us talk about, just drop it in the comments, and maybe we'll talk about it sometime in the next couple of weeks.
So that being said, we'll see you wherever we see you next Friday, same time, 9 Pacific, noon Eastern.
All right. Y'all take care.